All right, cool. Hello and welcome back to the Second and Two podcast. I'm your host, TP. I got my co-host, producer extraordinaire, hat connoisseur, master of the grills, lover of lenses, and I nailed this intro for the first time in a while. Jody, what's up, Joe?
Not much, man. We're here on a late night for you. For the first time back after our Super Bowl review, we had to postpone a little bit, scheduling got all mixed up, but we're here. We'll still get you the content you're looking for just a little bit later. And while I'm speaking on that, shout out to whoever started following us on some of the stuff, Our thing shot up. It almost doubled after the last
Let's
one.
go.
So
Let's
keep
go.
doing what y'all do. Like, comment,
Just in
subscribe,
time.
do all the things, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. I don't even know if you could do it on RSS, but try it out. Why not? Do all those things. Let us know what you want, what you like, what you don't, and we'll get them coming.
Make sure you follow us on the socials because we put out a lot of stuff, previewing content, and we'll always post the links to our episodes in case you miss them on your feed. And there's some fun stuff too on there. So definitely follow us on the socials. You can find us as long as you just search Second and Two Podcast. You'll find us on any of them.
Do we got Insta? Or is that the one we're lacking?
That's where we're lacking, bro. I thought you had Insta. You had TikTok. I got
TikTok.
X, formerly known as Twitter. All right, so you can't find us on Instagram for now. I don't know. That's terrible marketing by us.
That's in the works then. We'll get to there.
We got to fix that. We will not be on Facebook. I can almost guarantee you on that. But we'll be on TikTok and Twitter /X for sure. Maybe Instagram soon. Who knows? We'll have to get on that. We'll have to get our guys on that. Our guys behind the scenes.
The team.
The team. All right, so we're talking NFL draft today. We're starting our NFL draft pods, our series before the draft happens in late April, and we're extremely excited about it because there's just no time of year for NFL fans like draft season. Everybody feels like they got a shot to win the whole thing, feels like they got a shot to draft the next Patrick Mahomes or Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers Aaron Donald, whoever, right? Everyone feels like they got a shot to draft the guy for the next 10 to 15 years. And so all we're doing here, if you've been with us for over a year, you kind of know, but we're just going to go through every week. We're going to review a position, or preview a position, I should say. We'll go group by group all the way up until the draft. So we got 9-10 weeks of content here to go through. Every week will be a new group. This week we're focusing, if you're watching on the YouTube, on edge defenders. All right. So what are edge defenders? Those are 3-4 outside linebackers, 4-3 defensive ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jody, what you got?
So we're kicking it off with our guy Dallas Turner from Alabama. Looks like he sits at 6'4", 251. Played for 3 years. Is that total or at Bama? That's a question.
3 years total.
All right. So he's going into the league as a junior. Let's see. Played 42 games. Let's see. What's 16 times 3? I guess he missed 6 games is what that comes out to, give or take. Let's see. Sacks. He got 22.5 over that time frame. He had 49 QB hits. That's pressure rating, yeah? Then make sure I didn't forget that one.
Our pressure rate.
60% on his pressure rate. Got 123 tackles. I got tripped up because it's just 1, 2, 3. 123 total tackles, and then 39 of those were for loss.
All right, so look at Dallas Turner. Right now, he's kind of become sort of the consensus top guy among a lot of people, among media. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Number one, he was productive for 3 years at Alabama. You look at the numbers that jump off. 123 tackles in 3 seasons is, for an edge guy, is a lot. 39 TFLs, that means he was making a lot of plays, right? 22.5 sacks, he was making a lot of plays. So Dallas Turner, there's a lot to like when you watch him. First and foremost, we're going to look at his primary mode of getting to the quarterback, and that is his speed to power rush. He loves to convert speed to power, which means he's going to try and get that tackle going up the field. Then he's going to go right through it. All right. So here we go. This is him against Mississippi State this year. So he gets that tackle kind of stopping his feet. Then he's just going to go right through him to get to the quarterback. Sack. Big time play against Mississippi State. All right. I think when you think of Dallas Turner, that's the first thing that you think of is how powerful he is, right?
Strong
When you watch his tape.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Now, the next thing is it was clear that his 3 years at Alabama are extremely beneficial. He's a student of the game because his instincts and his play recognition are unbelievable. Here he is against Ole Miss, right? And you can see, once again, if you're watching the live stream or the video on YouTube, he sees that it's zone, and he's just going to split the gap and make the play. Most guys are going to, okay, it's zone, I got to get lateral. He just recognizes it, gets up the field, and makes the play, right? Now, here's the thing. True. If I'm coaching that guy, I'm telling him, hey, you got to set an edge for us. If you're going to go up the field like that, you better make the play, right? But he did, and that's the thing, that's so impressive is that's a hard play to make, and he made it look pretty easy. Once again, you watch it, the finish with the tackle, love all that. Gets a little selly, right? Okay, the third thing that stands out about him, he's got this. I mean, he literally has long arms. We don't know those measurements yet because he hasn't been to the combine. We're not there yet, but he uses the long arm technique really well. This is a play in the SEC championship against Georgia. Huge play on 3rd and 12, right? So we're going to watch it. Boom, he get off. He's trying to get up the field. Now he knows, once again, he's kind of converting that speed to power, but in doing so, he uses that long arm to convert and get back underneath once he gets to the level of the quarterback's really smart pass rush. Look at that long arm. See how he holds him off, one hand. And look at it. He's bench pressing this dude, literally turning his body and then getting back underneath to make the play. Sack. That's impressive because this Georgia tackle, 250, bro. He's closer to 350. All right. So for him to do that with one arm, once again, extremely powerful. It's one of the major weapons in his arsenal. And I think this makes him extremely dangerous. And it's part of why I think a lot of people like him at the next level. A lot of people look at him as possibly the first guy taken in the draft as an edge player. You look at what he can do for a defense. I think he probably projects, as, I think an every down guy, right? He's flexible enough. I think he can play in a 3-4 as an outside linebacker, standing up. I think he could also develop as a 4-3 end with his hand in the dirt more often than not. His best fit is probably standing up as an outside linebacker.
Yeah, I would
because he's actually
his stance looks weird
when he gets in a 3-point.
Yeah. I thought it looked uncomfortable. I don't know about you.
Well, he didn't do it a lot, so it doesn't mean he can't do it. It just means he's not comfortable with it yet. But he did do it in some situations for Alabama because they're a multiple front team. They let him stand up more often than not, though. But I think, his greatest quality right now is going to be that power as a stand-up rusher. He reminds me, if you go back, I think it's 2019 when the Raiders, maybe 2020, the Raiders took Clelin Ferrell out of Clemson. All right, so here's kind of the video on that, the pro comp for Dallas Turner in my mind. So you can see Clelin Ferrell. He plays for the San Francisco 49ers now, but this is his tape when he was in Vegas. You can see that
2019.
Length. Yep. The power to get through the rush and make the play to finish. We'll watch it again here. Similar deal, though. He loves to convert speed to power. That was his thing, right? He just goes through that tack that really ends up being the guard. And you can see it. I think the shades, you look at their similar builds in terms of the size and frame. Clelin Ferrell's a little bit heavier, but that's where he is right now versus Dallas Turner coming out as a prospect. So I do think it's a good comp. Joe, what you think?
Yeah, I mean, we were able to see right there just the similar gameplay. Get up the field, use your strength to leverage them, get where you need to go. I mean, in terms of Dallas Turner, from what I saw, I felt like he looked a little slower. I don't know if it was his get off or pursuit. Somewhere down there, he takes time for him to kick up speed, and then similar to what you're talking about when he made that play on the Ole Miss. I said he had good eyes. I mean, granted, he could have very well fumbled that play, but it worked out for him. So that was the other thing. And then I said he likes to bull rush. There's more on the highlight reel that I seen where he was just bull rushing a lot.
Yeah, so I do think I'm with you on the worry in terms of explosion for him. Like, if you don't have the threat of speed, then speed converting to power doesn't really work because tackles won't set and be on their heels. They'll be ready for you when you just come with power. So I do wonder, and that's also why I think I like the Clelin Ferrell comp. He was a high pick, but didn't necessarily produce like I think the Raiders were hoping for. And I could see some shades of that with Dallas Turner, considering some questions about the explosion there.
Yeah, and then in terms of that bull rush too, I think if it was him, if I remember correctly, I kind of thought he was kind of like a one-trick pony. He kind of got to work on more things to just get out of that bull rush because those are tough to pull off, and it takes a lot of energy too. So it's like you can't really be out there every down. You know what I mean?
And in fairness to him, I think more often than not, college pass rushers can get away with being a one-trick pony if that one trick is really good. Because they don't face good enough tackles and protections week to week that force them to do different things if they're that good at the one thing. So I would say that all these guys can probably work on adding to their repertoire. There's no perfect prospects, obviously. And so we'll see what Dallas Turner does. Currently, he's projected to go somewhere between picks 8 and 20 is where I've seen him mocked the most. Somewhere in the teens is more than likely where he's going to go. Some people have him, like I said, as the first pass rusher off the board. Some people will have him, as the third pass rusher off the board. So we'll see, as draft season, we're just heating up. We haven't even gone to the combine. We'll see, pro days, all that good stuff. We've got two full months before we get there to the draft. So this could change dramatically. So it's just always the worry with doing these this early. But the tape doesn't lie. And that's at the end of the day what we're going to go with.
Eye in the sky don't lie. That's the classic motto right there.
Classic. But who we got next, Joe?
Yeah, we're taking a look at Chop Robinson. He was from Penn State. He's 6'3", 254. Played for 3 years. He played 1 year at Maryland, though. 2021, his first year. Let's see. He played 35 games. Also, back to the games. I did math wrong. I don't know why I chose 16 as the magic number. I'm pretty sure it's just 12 plus whatever postseason they get. But
yeah.
But yeah, so he played 35 games. I
wasn't going to smoke you today.
No, I was going to mention it earlier, but I kind of just let you run with that. I'll get to it now that we're here. Let's see. He had 11.5 sacks over that time frame, 33 quarterback hits, 17% pressure rate. That's pretty impressive. 54 tackles, and 24 of those were for loss.
Yeah. So you can see if you're comparing Chop Robinson, Dallas Turner, the production, raw numbers wise, tackles, TFL, sacks, quarterback hits, not nearly the same. However, he's played in 7 less games, but also you notice that pressure rate, little tick higher. So that means he was getting pressure more often, just maybe not getting home as much. And I do think, I watched enough Penn State football this year. Teams game plan for this guy. There was a lot of built-in quick game. Michigan, when they played Penn State, they threw the ball they didn't throw it in the second half because Chop Robinson dominated the first half. We'll have I'm sure a play of his when we look at the tape here against Michigan, and they literally said, we don't want to throw the ball because Chop Robinson is wrecking our game plan. So he has that kind of talent. And before I get into, what he's good at strengths wise, what he brings to the table, I think you'll like this, Joe. When he was born, they nicknamed him Pork Chop. And then it
He was
just
like
became
14
Chop.
pounds or something when he was
Yeah,
born.
it just became Chop as he got older. So I kind of love it. I mean, Chop Robinson, that's a sick name. I'm just gonna say it.
Definitely.
It kind of
That's a
sounds
great
like
nickname
that.
to get, especially at that age when you're just right out the womb. Like, it's
It kind of
destiny.
reminds me of the you remember the old Key and Peele skit where they say the
When
names?
they're at the football games or like the crazy names at the All-Star game.
Yeah, yeah. And I could just
Yeah.
see it. Chop Robinson, Penn State. Like sick name, perfect football name. Anyway, so strengths wise, number one, and the thing that jumps off tape with him, his first step is so twitchy. I mean, it's insane how quick he gets off the ball. It's literally, we talked about being a one-trick pony. There's so many plays on his tape where he doesn't even have to go into any kind of counter move. He just beats a guy around the corner with speed.
Yeah,
Like,
no. That
I
and his
mean,
shoulder dip getting around that edge just
let's
works
watch
like
it.
nothing.
I mean, look at that. Jeez, just whip that tackle. All right. Hey, you may say, okay, that's weaker competition. Let's go. Let's see it against Maryland, who was pretty good this year. Nah, it's the same thing, right? Yeah, and then you get a little selly. And we'll play it for the folks at home one more time, especially if you're watching on the YouTube. But you see, he kind of gets to the level at the tackle, and he gets that tackle doing what? Standing straight up. And that's when he just goes, whop! And he's round the corner. Like you said, we'll get to that bend. There's a couple plays that really show it in a second. That's that second strength of his that puts it all together. He closes the door really well. But look at this tackle. He's got the guy's feet together, his hands spread apart. Guy's got no chance to block him right there. Huge play. Huge play.
He should have just held him with the way his arms were. You just give him a bear hug. Call it a day.
Agreed. A lot of people would have been better off holding Chop Robinson this year. Okay, so the second thing we talked about was that bend around the corner. His explosive get off is important. That's the first thing you teach any D lineman, edge rusher. Get off, get off, get off, right? Work it every day in practice. Get off, get off, get off. But that get off doesn't mean anything if you can't pay it off at the top of the rush, right? And once he gets behind a tackle, he's really good at closing the door and not letting that tackle get back into the play. He bends those hips, he dips back to the quarterback, and he makes plays. I mean, this one, I think we've got Rutgers here maybe. I can't remember exactly. Oh, maybe Utah in the Rose Bowl a couple years ago. Yeah, it's Utah in the Rose Bowl a couple years ago. But watch this. Look how low he gets to get around that corner. I mean, he's an unreal, twitchy, explosive, bendy athlete that has.
My dude tried holding him, couldn't do it. Didn't
I mean, his
him.
ceiling is so high when you watch him. I just couldn't. He jumped off tape for me. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but what I watched was not necessarily what it was. And then lastly, here's the playmaking. I mentioned that game against Michigan, right? Here's a 3rd and 3 kind of early in the game. It's 0-0. Michigan's thinking, okay, what can we do? Hey, we're going to throw the ball on 3rd and 3. They're probably expecting run. They've loaded the box, right? Maybe get a little play action here, something like that. Nope, just quick game. Watch Chop. Look at where Chop Robinson is when J.J. McCarthy gets the snap. Okay.
Yeah.
The line of
compared
scrimmage.
To everyone else too.
If you aren't watching right now, I'll just describe this for you. The line of scrimmage is Michigan's own 37. By the time J.J. McCarthy gets the snap and he's taking his first step of his drop back, Chop Robinson is already at the 33-yard line of Michigan, and J.J. McCarthy's at the 31. You can tell this thing isn't going to end well. The fact that, and there's the bend, the play, all of it. I mean, the playmaking, he did a really good job, like whether it was 3rd down, forcing a fumble, big moment of the game when his team needs it. He showed up in those big moments consistently, which was very encouraging for him to be a young player. Michigan's defense played really well in this game. Penn State had basically no offense, and Chop Robinson sort of took over the game by himself as a pass rusher to keep his team in it and made Michigan just kind of run the clock and bleed it. Just run the football and bleed the clock, get out of there, right? Once again, the explosion, the ability to turn the corner, the playmaking, all of it is there in terms of his pass rush. When I look at, what he might be able to do for a team who drafts him right now, I think his initial role is probably just a pass rusher. He still really needs development in the run game, controlling his gap. If you watch that Michigan game, you watch it all the way through, towards the end of the game, Blake Corum kind of gets the touchdown run that sort of seals it because Chop Robinson was trying to make a play and got out of his gap in the run game, right? So
that's brutal.
It's one of those things, young player trying to see too much, trying to make too many plays. He's not necessarily there in the run game as well yet, but I think he's an elite level pass rusher. I mean, I think he has his first step and the bend gives him a very high ceiling. Because when you're drafting this guy, do you want him to be an every down player if you're drafting him as high as they might? Yes. But you're okay with early on, I think, saying just go be great at what you're great at. We're going to develop the other parts. Yeah. We'll develop the counter moves. We'll develop, gap control and playing the run, all those things. He's going to get developed that way. But I think he has one of the more elite traits in this draft in terms of the edge guys with that first step. It's so quick. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, you touched pretty much on everything I had written down. I mean, the only other two things I had was his arm length, which is kind of what you talked about on Dallas Turner. I feel like he had a bunch of not necessarily arm tackles, but plays where he was diving out and tripped up their ankles or whatever, being able to get the extra oomph on the tackle. And then I said he had good reads and he was disciplined. We didn't show many of those, but there was times where I saw him setting the edge compared to what we didn't see with Dallas Turner, setting that edge, flowing back to the ball and making the tackle with a couple other dudes with him as well. But yeah, so I actually started off watching his film first. I don't know how I skipped Dallas Turner when I was doing this initially. And I was like, oh, dang, these dudes are coming in hot. We're about to have some good talent right here on the edge rushers. And then, as time went on, I was kind of just underwhelmed, sadly. But he set a high ceiling. He had me juiced, I'm going to be honest.
And I think you were juiced for good reason. If anybody's watching, my apologies. I am a little sick right now, trying to work through it. So you see me blowing my nose.
We got the nasally.
Like
we got the nasally every now and again. I don't know if you heard that.
Hopefully the people like it. I don't know. Maybe it makes me more annoying. All right. So in terms of pro comp, now Brandon Graham's a little heavier, especially right now. He's later in his career. Can't believe he's still playing, and he's still playing pretty effectively as a situational pass rusher. He's an Eagles legend, but Brandon Graham, that's who I saw when I watched Chop Robinson, slimmer Brandon Graham, but just the quick twitch bend around the edge. Here you go. Here's Brandon Graham from about 3 or 4 years ago. Joe Burrow's the quarterback for the Bengals, so it wasn't that long ago. But look,
probably.
Yeah, the quickness around the edge, the bend, the get off, same thing. He's at the top again. This is against Daniel Jones. Forces the sack fumble. There's the playmaking element. Once again, just like Chop Robinson, I think this is what Chop Robinson can be, especially early on, and may develop into, more of a playmaker in the run game and every down player like Brandon Graham was able to. But gosh, that is, man, Brandon Graham's a playmaker. He made the big play to help the Eagles win the Super Bowl. I could see Chop Robinson playing a very similar role in his career.
Yeah, I will say it's definitely not more noticeable for me on this first play right here where we see the similarities in terms of the comp. And I didn't even realize that Brandon Graham's 35 years old. That's pretty crazy too. And
he's still going
deep, especially as a pass rusher. That's crazy to do.
All right, who we got next?
The next guy we're taking a look at is going to be Jared Verse out of Florida State. He's 6'4", 260. Played for 3 years. He's got 40 games. Let's see, where are we at? He had got 18 sacks in that time, 50 quarterback hits. I think that's the highest we've seen so far. with a pressure rate of 20. That's even higher than that's crazy. A fifth of the time. Let's see. He's got 92 tackles and 35 of them were for loss.
All right. I'm about to get excited right now. Okay. So Jared Verse, this dude is a sick athlete with a huge repertoire of moves. He originally started at Albany, University of Albany. And then after 3 years, including he had a redshirt year, 2 years of playing, produced so well that, Florida State was like, hey, why don't you come on over here? Then he played 2 years at Florida State. And golly, I mean, he tore it up. There's a couple of games. And if you just watch the whole game, like the LSU game 2 years ago, oh my gosh. I don't know if I've ever seen a guy wreck a game more than he did in that game. There it is. Here's some tape from that game. This might be from this year's game. I'm trying to remember now. But regardless, first things first, he's got this elite chop. All right. Got a lot of moves actually in his repertoire, but the best one to me is his chop. His hands and feet come at the same time. He hits the tackle on the wrist. He takes them off their balance. I mean, I'm just gonna let the tape speak for itself right here. Golly, beat the dude like a drum. Oh my gosh. You know what? Let's see that from another angle after the celly right here. Let's take another look at this. Bah!
There's the chop.
Down, around, sack, fumble.
The timing on that's crazy.
Okay, now we're going to see it against Virginia Tech. Bah! Chop it, get around the edge, sack. And he feels like the most polished of all the guys in terms of understanding how to use his hands, when the hands and feet timing need to come down, where to hit on that wrist. I mean, he's a technician, and he's so powerful. That's the next thing is the powerful base that he plays with. This is against Louisville in the ACC championship this year, right? They're playing for their playoff lives. They don't have their quarterback. They know they need a big performance on defense. And the thing is, tackles don't get a hold of him often, but when they do, he plays with such great base and power that he'll just rock them back and win the pass rush rep. I mean, or if it's run, he'll keep that guy at the line of scrimmage. I mean, so here you go. Right? He gets off, kind of tackle, wins the rep, but he just bullies him and still makes the play.
Yeah.
And then you get the little leapfrog.
The separation was huge. To come back from
watch what happens to this tackle. There. He bench presses him, creates the separation like you said, and then just sees it lane and goes. Says, I'm going to take that air. Sack. Nasty. Here it is against run. Same thing. I'm going to bully this tackle, set the edge, make the tackle for loss. He's a man. If you can't tell, I really like Jared Verse. This dude's freaky.
No, I agree.
And then last but not least, and you'll see why I comped him who I comped him to in a second. But his finishing, like he wins a lot of reps where it takes him a first move, a counter, and then it's just like relentless effort to finish the play. And it's a trait that I think all the best pass rushers have. Like, okay, I did my move, I did my counter, I'm still kind of, maybe I got chipped, maybe I got to be a second guy, maybe I'm still getting stoned, but the quarterback still got the ball. I'm just going to keep running my butt off and see what happens. Okay? Here you can see they try and chip him with the tight end. Okay, then they got the tackle waiting for him. They tried to put the motion in front of his face too, if you didn't notice that. And it didn't matter. Wake Forest didn't have a chance. I mean, the motion didn't freak him out. He beats two guys, 1-2 with basically the same move.
Yeah,
just effort to finish the play. Nasty. Okay, now here he is in the rivalry game against Florida. All right, I'm going to try and beat him with quickness. I get around the corner. Quarterback steps up. A lot of guys might have given up on the rush right there. He keeps running and finds that guy, punches the ball out. It's a fumble. They don't get it. That's a big play. Essentially a sack, right? The chop again.
Yeah.
Running around the world. Keep going. Boom. Quarterback never knows you're there. Big time stuff. These
Mhm.
are all the reasons I like Jared Verse so much. I mean, you put together the chop, the understanding of how to use his hands, the different moves in his repertoire, how great a base he plays with. He is quick off the ball. He does finish plays. Man, I really like this dude. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I think you touched pretty much everything I wrote down and just said it a little different. I said he had a quick get off, you know. I had a physical arms, which ties into you talking about the chop. Said he was strong. You touched on that with the where we saw the separation on that tackle. And then I just said I have two random notes I put. He looks like a monster out there. He looked a lot taller than most of the people and just built differently. Like
Yeah,
that
straight up.
one dude, I don't even remember where he was from. Might have been South Carolina, some dude like a million years ago, where he's got his shirt rolled up. You know what I'm talking about? I don't know if you
Oh,
remember that
Baylor.
picture. Was it Baylor? Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I
And
forget the
then
guy's name, but he was number 0, and the jersey's rolled up, and he's just got the abs hanging out.
yeah,
I know
yeah,
exactly
yep,
what you're
that
talking about.
one. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then I ran another note was the Florida State all white helmets with like the red arrow on there were
Those are
sick.
sick, huh?
Yeah.
Nasty. I like those too. Okay. So in terms of what Verse can do for a defense, I think I've already kind of given this away. I think he's my favorite pass rusher in the draft because
Same.
he has elite traits combined with the effort to finish, good run defender. Think he's a 4-3 end for the most part, hand in the dirt most times.
Yeah,
He's going to be
true.
great as a wide 9. I mean, that's just what he was born to play. So my comp for him then is Max Crosby, right? Now, a lot of people are going to think I'm crazy right now, and I know that, and that's fine. But let's just watch Max Crosby on this play and tell me it doesn't remind you of the play against Wake Forest. Chip by Jasecki,
Oh
got to
yeah,
beat that.
the
Tackles there, got to beat that. Same move, bop, bop. He put Jasecki on the ground, embarrassing. Beats the tackle like a drum. Bow, finishes for a sack, safety in the end zone. Essentially a game ender. Then he gives you like little Conor McGregor walk off yell. Look at me. I'm a freaking dog. Yeah, you are, bro. We know it. Mac Jones never had a chance. All right. Like, but once again, the technician with the hands,
yeah.
okay, but just the relentless motor, the finishing, just like you will not block me. It does not matter. I'm gonna make the play right now. And I see that same intangible in Jared Verse. And that's why I like him so much.
Definitely.
That's why I comped him to Max Crosby. That's why he's my favorite pass rusher in the draft. We'll obviously get to our rankings in terms of edge. There's more that goes into being an edge defender than just being a pass rusher, but he's my favorite. He's the most polished pass rusher in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I was that was another thing I was gonna write down too. Is he just looks like the most NFL ready out of the group for sure to me. Let's see.
All
Looking
right.
ahead, next guy we're looking at is gonna be Laiatu Latu out of UCLA. He's 6'4", 265. Is that 5 years? Am I bugging?
So I'll give you the backstory on him. Basically, he was at UW, or I'm sorry, Washington State, for 2
A year?
seasons.
Oh,
And going into his second season, he had a neck injury in preseason of 2020, and they told him he would never play again. He took 2 years off of football, didn't play, then just decided he missed it too much. Wound up at UCLA in 2021 or 2022. Had a great year, had an even better year this year in 23, and now his story is incredible because he was told you're never going to play again. Like you can't. Your neck's too messed up. And turns out, he kind of proved him wrong. So really cool story. It's definitely a guy you root for, in my opinion, anyway.
all right. Well, now I don't want to write. I don't want to talk about half the stuff I wrote down.
I
Let's see.
made
So
Jody
over
feel
that,
guilty.
yeah, bro, I feel bad roasting this guy in my notes,
Hey, we'll
but
just wait. I'll give you some tape and we'll talk it through. We'll talk it through. Maybe I'll convince you to like him.
let's see. So he played 37 games over his college career. He's got 23 sacks, 57 quarterback hits. Ooh, another 20% on the pressure rate. Got
Hmm.
a nice round, 100 tackles total with 41 for loss.
Okay. So Laiatu Latu. Number one thing that stood out to me The guy rushed from literally everywhere. They asked him to
That
rush
is
from the
true.
left side, the right side, inside from a
Inside,
4-eye, outside to a
which I
wide 9,
was crazy.
inside as a 3 technique, hand in the dirt, standing up. It didn't matter. Like his ability as a pass rusher from anywhere let UCLA, have some real creativity schematically on defense, which is fun. Like as a defensive coordinator, gosh, this is a DC's dream, right? To have a guy who can do this. And it's interesting because you didn't see this really on anyone else's tape. That's why it stood out so much, that he was coming from so many different angles and positions. So here you go. Here he is rushing against USC from the left over a guard. Not a chance. Sorry. Standing up as essentially a 4 technique, but he's going to rush, the B gap with the guard there. The guard's going to kick to him because the tackle has to kick to the outside guy, right? They're actually going to drop the outside guy. But Laiatu Latu he's just too good, bro. Like you can't let a guard pass pro him. Now he's going to rush from the right. Once again, standing up. He's going to rush, as a 5 technique, standing up. They try to block him with the tight end. Stupid. Sack. No offense, Arizona. But, man, would not recommend blocking this guy with a tight end. Okay, now against Colorado, you're going to see he rushes from inside, 4-point stance as a 3 technique and gets the sack that way too. Okay, boom. Going to beat the guard inside right away. Still has the athleticism to chase down and trip up Shadur Sanders, who was one of the sickest athletes in college football this year. Didn't matter. He gets the sack there too. Okay, so we got the adaptability. The second thing you see in his game, kind of similar to Jared Verse. I think I phrased it a little differently, especially given his background. I think when you watch him play, there's an obvious resilience in his game, right? Like he writes, what is it? In his notebook, I read this today, like he plays like, he writes in his notebook like LPE, which I think it's like last play ever. And he just reminds himself,
okay.
Football got taken away from me for 2 years. It could
Yeah.
always get taken away. I'm going to play every play like it's my last play. And that attitude, gosh, I love it. And you can see it in his game. Like, watch this, okay? Here he is again against Arizona, I believe. Or no, Washington State. And he's getting blocked. Like, that tackle's doing a good job. But he doesn't care. He's going to just keep going. And he makes the play. It's a really impressive sack. Even though he doesn't win initially, his tackle's got his hands with him. He just keeps going. He doesn't care. He's just going to keep going. Sack. I freaking love that because that's stuff that you really can't coach. That's just stuff that a dude has or doesn't. He either instinctually is going to play that way or he won't. The fact that he has it, I love that. He wins a lot of rushes that other guys might give up on. Last but not least, I think his hands are probably the best part of his pass rush toolbox. You see everything from a double swipe to a rip to a stab, an escape on the tape. He's really polished. He's agile enough to execute like these detailed counter moves, even when that tackle wins initially. So here you go against Stanford. This is a sick one right here. Little double swipe, pull yourself through. Sack. Big time play too. There's a reason UCLA's defense was really good this year, and people weren't really expecting it. I don't know that people paid attention to it, but they were really good. And part of it was this guy. So, in terms of all the stuff that he has in his game, he's long. He's got a lot of weight to him. 265 is a long dude. Plays with great hands. Still really agile. And then, like I said, the story behind it is great too because I think you can see that in his play, which is an awesome thing to see show up on tape because it doesn't show up for everyone. All right, Joe. Hopefully I guilt-tripped you enough to say good things about Latu, but I know you weren't as big a fan of him as I was, so let me hear it.
No, I was not. So you did touch his hands. I did have that written down. He does have good hands. I also wrote he had good chase down speed and pursuit. Saw him gaining speed over time, making those tackles at the edges, like near the sideline. Let's see. So despite his 6'4", 265, I think he looks small out there compared to everyone else for some reason. And I feel like he looks like a It could be the helmet. I don't know, but I felt he looks like he used to play tight end, and they switched him over to D end because of whatever reason. And then I also said he could work on his tackling a little bit. I feel like it was a lot more like he would get his hands on the guy, couldn't really get him down, and then the homies would pull up and they'd all get him. I don't know.
Okay,
That's what I
fair
had
enough.
on there though.
Fair enough. We'll see if you like my comp here, and it may just be wearing the number 15 for UCLA. I don't know, but that length, and the hands remind me a lot of Jalen Phillips, who was a draft pick for the Dolphins a few years ago. Originally played at UCLA and then transferred to Miami. But here you go. Here's a Jalen Phillips highlight from I think it was last year, maybe. Same thing with the hands, pulling himself through, finishing on the quarterback with the chase.
Oh yeah, he was like 10 yards past him and made that too.
So it reminds me so much of that length and the hands and the Jalen Phillips is another guy who, similar story, like thought, when he was done at UCLA that he wasn't going to play anymore. Another medically retired guy. It's kind of weird how similar their stories are. Ends up at Miami, has, a great year, and then ends up in the draft and is now a primetime player for the Dolphins. His problem has been staying healthy in the NFL, but every time he's healthy, he's been really good. And I think the comp in terms of the background, the story, everything down to the number, maybe once again, I was primed to make this comp, but I loved it. I thought that there was a lot of similarities there. And finishing up with Latu, I think he did so much at UCLA that any NFL team or scheme will be able to use him because he's so adaptable. I think his best fit is as a stand-up 3-4 outside linebacker, where that adaptability, that athleticism can be used the most. But I think he can kind of do a little bit of everything. And we've seen Jalen Phillips do some of that too. Sometimes Jalen Phillips can get kicked inside and rush inside, similar deal.
Yeah,
so
no doubt.
I really like Latu. He's projected to go similar to a lot of the other guys. Everyone's kind of in that, as high as 8, low as, 29 to 30. These first 4 guys we talked about are all sort of in that range right now based on the mock drafts that are being put out. Obviously, Jared Verse and Latu and Turner are kind of the guys who are getting the most love, as high as 8. Chop Robinson's a little bit more in the teens, but these first four guys are all kind of in the same spot in most mock drafts.
Who's 8, if you know off top?
The Falcons for the 3rd year in a row. So people are kind of, although news came out today that said people are coming out today saying that they really like Drake May and they may try and trade up. So who knows? And once again, we're 2 months away. These projections are actually kind of stupid. I only put them on there because we do it for the other guys later. They probably don't mean anything right now, but
they might change a lot between now and then for at least these first couple without pro days and all the other numbers.
Agreed. All right, moving on. We got one more guy to talk about tonight.
Yeah, we're going to close out with Chris Braswell from Alabama, so played on the opposite side of our guy, Dallas Turner. Let's see. He's 6'3", 256. He's got 3 years there, 41 games, so I think that's just 1 shy of his, or 2 shy of his homie. Let's see, 21.5 sacks for him, 39 quarterback hits. Pretty solid pressure rate at 17%, 79 total tackles with 21 for loss.
All right, so Chris Braswell, I would describe him a little bit as like the forgotten man, actually, at Alabama, just because the last 2 years, who was everyone talking about? Will Anderson Jr., Dallas Turner.
Yeah,
Chris Braswell didn't start many games because of that. However, I love his tape. I was actually so shocked when I watched his tape. He might have jumped off the page and impressed me more than anyone else based on my prior expectations. And you try and remove that obviously in the draft process. Like you don't want to go in expecting to see certain things from guys. So try as much as possible to remove it. But I can't lie when I say that this guy jumped off tape. I mean, incredible. So number one, he is an explosive playmaker. Like the guy had game-ending sacks, blocked kicks, interceptions returned for touchdowns, sack fumbles, big hits on the quarterback, like you name it. It's full of just like game-changing plays, big moments at his time at Alabama. And kind of said this about Chop Robinson, very similar here. Just has a knack for showing up for his team in the big moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let this play. Block kick. By the way, the score at this time was 24-17.
So he tied it, or he took the lead higher?
Took the 2-touchdown lead. This is at the end of the game against Tennessee. They've got a 27-20 lead. Sack fumble. Touchdown. So that's 2 game enders right there, basically, right? This man is a closer. This one is maybe my favorite play I watched all week. Wow. Oh my God. Of course it was a
Too
flag,
bad he got the helmet to helmet, sadly.
Of course it was a flag, but he absolutely killed South Florida's quarterback on that play. All right, here's another game ender against Auburn. Once they took the lead on like the miracle throw on 4th down, another game ender against Auburn. He gets the sack right here, and then on the next play, he gets a sack fumble that causes Auburn to go back into their end zone to recover it, and they get his safety. Okay, so like the guy is a closer. If you need a closer in big minutes, this guy does it. I mean, insane stuff. The smaller Chris Jones, if you will. He's only 6'3", 256. Chris Jones is a large human.
I'm just saying that's how I view him. At the end of the game, he's gonna do what you need to get it done.
Yep. The best guys do. Okay. Second thing I noticed. This guy sets an edge better than anybody else in the draft, in my opinion. That I watched.
It's funny because so far I stole your verse bar for bar. I literally have I guess not the necessary. I didn't write the explosive playmaking, but he lays the hat. Clearly, we saw that on the quarterback. He did that multiple times. And then I said sets an edge well on another note.
Yeah, he does a really good job punching and pressing, setting the edge. And then what's great is he maintains that leverage. But once he sees the back go inside of him, he'll just fold back in and make the play. Like once he knows it's crossed his hip, that's big time stuff. Like that's, it's one thing to set the edge. It's another thing to then fold back over and make the play. See it right here. He's got that edge set, resetting the line of scrimmage, not letting the tackle drive him. And now once he sees the ball cross his hip, what does he do? I'm going to fold back in and make the play. 1 yard gain in the red zone against Texas, another college football playoff team. Pretty good stuff. So he does that well. Then finally, I think I call this posture awareness. Really, all it is he just counters really well because he has great recognition of, where the tackle's balance is in pass rush, right? You're trying to beat him up. Obviously, you're always kind of trying to get him on an edge, one way or the other, right? Inside, outside, whatever, depending on where you're rushing from. And you want to feel where that tackle is putting his weight. And obviously, you want to go away from that where that weight is, right? So that you can get that guy off balance. And he seems to always recognize the next move, whether it's bending the corner because he's got him beat, converting speed to power, getting back underneath once he's past the quarterback. He just does a really good job of all of it. And that's another sort of natural thing that I think some guys have and some guys don't. Like right here, some guys might have tried to run all the way around the hoop. Yeah, he just is like, I know I'm at the level of the quarterback. I'm going to get back underneath it and make the play.
My guy low-key tried to trip him.
Yeah. This was on a 3rd and 7. Once again, a big-time game against Texas A&M. Get around the edge. Oh, no. Fold back under. Make the play. Get a hit on the quarterback. Cause a 4th down. Make him punt. So I think he's kind of, like I said, he's special at all those things. A lot of that is natural. It shows up really well on tape. What did you see, Joe?
Yeah, the only other note I meant that you didn't have was I had good eyes. I think that kind of ties in with the setting the edge. You see him, he gets out there, sees that the dude's coming back in, swoop, get off the block. I will say right now the posture awareness. I feel like that's the word that Aiden Hutchinson used on George Kittle, the pro acclamation or whatever the word was, where
Yeah.
he could it sets off like the balance thing, which is kind of funny. I don't even know if that's the right word that he used. Like he said, I'm an Iowa boy. You can't use that around me. I don't even know what he said. I couldn't even tell you right now.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. So in terms of Braswell, what he projects as in my mind, think he's a plug and play guy, 3-4 scheme, stand up edge player. He'll be really good on early rundowns. He's going to take some time to develop his pass rush repertoire. Um, I think he'll likely be a rotational player early on. He's got a high ceiling though because of the playmaking, the understanding of posture. I just think there's some skills that need to continue to develop. Kind of how I feel about both Alabama guys. And not a lot of people are as big on Braswell as they are on Turner, and I might be one of the few exceptions. And we'll see, obviously, as we get to our rankings. But last but not least here, I got to give you a comp. All right, so he reminds me a lot of Chris Long, who early in his career was like typical 4-3, put his hand in the dirt end. Then when he went to New England and won a Super Bowl, he stood up a lot more, and he did it a lot in Philly too. And he really found his fit and had a really successful back half of his career. He's a little bit thicker than Braswell, but their movement reminds me, and the play recognition, the understanding of posture, all that stuff, setting an edge, being good in run or pass, reminds me a lot of Chris Long, just this super solid player who you'd love to have on your team as a rotational piece. Chris Long was drafted number 2 overall. So that's not what people were hoping he would be when he was drafted. But like I said, he won 2 Super Bowls in the back half of his career and did it in a way where he finally found his niche. All right, so here you go against the Broncos. Boom, feeling that tackle where he's at. Once again, the playmaking element, getting the sack fumble, gets a little celebration after. Against his former team, the Rams, right here, same thing. Feeling where that tackle is, getting around the corner, bend, strip sack, playmaking, big time play in a game that, as you can see, was 34-35 with 8 minutes to go. This possession let the Eagles take the lead and actually get the 1 seed, which this was the year they won that Super Bowl, if you remember. So, huge play. You could argue probably the biggest play of the Eagles season until the playoffs. So what do you think, Joe? You like it? Don't like it? Thoughts?
On the comp or on on Braswell? Yeah, I mean I like it. I don't know. I like I told you before. I didn't recall watching much of Chris Long in general, so I couldn't tell you like real time. But I see it on here for sure.
Okay.
Let's see.
All right, so we gotta get to rankings now, right?
Yeah.
All right, you want to go first? You want me to go first? How are we doing this today?
It don't matter to me. I can go first if you want.
All right, Joe.
Actually no.
Going first.
I think you got to go first in order for mine to make sense.
Oh, okay. All right, I'm going first. All right, number 1. Let me get a sip of water because I'm about to go hard right now. Jared Verse. Okay. I think everyone understood this when I was talking about him. I blew up when I talked about him. Jared Verse is the closest thing to the polished prospect in this draft as an edge guy. I think he matches physicality with explosion, with technique and finishing. He's the closest guy to exactly what you want. Number 2, Chop Robinson. As I said, maybe a little flawed in the run game, needs to work on some things, needs to build his repertoire because he's able to beat so many people in the first step right now. But he has traits that you can't teach. That speed, that bend around the corner, you can't teach it. You can't. He has it. And you're drafting these guys to get sacks. Okay, so that's ultimately what he's going to be able to do. Number 3, Laiatu Latu. Love his hands, resilience, the adaptability, think he fits in any scheme, think he can do a lot with his length and athleticism. Really high on him. Number 4, Chris Braswell. Like I said, most people have his Alabama teammate above him in a lot of these draft rankings. I think by the time we get to the draft, people will see the value in Chris Braswell. He made more plays on tape. He stood out more. If you're watching, either one of their tape and you're watching for Dallas Turner, sometimes Chris Braswell stood out. And I never felt that way when I was watching Chris Braswell tape. about Dallas Turner. Okay.
Ooh.
Maybe that's unfair, but that's, in my mind, that stood out big time. And number 5, Dallas Turner still has a lot of the traits you want. That's why he still makes my top 5. But of all these 5 guys I talked about, the guy who I think maybe has the most quote unquote bust potential or not, he'll be a guy who's good, maybe not what you expect him to be when you draft him.
Travels around the league a little bit.
Dallas Turner, in my mind, that's that guy. Everyone else after these guys to me is extremely raw. They may have one really good trait, and they need to develop all the other parts of their game. These 5 to me were the closest to being NFL ready. And if they weren't quite NFL ready, they have traits to me that make them have the highest possible ceiling compared to some of the other guys. So some of my honorable mentions, I like Braylon Trice out of UW, big, strong dude. A little nervous about, how his game translates to the NFL. He plays high a lot. Gabriel Murphy from UCLA. Laiatu Latu's teammate, who also was another one that showed up on tape so much when I was watching Latu that I was like, does Murphy need to make my top 5? I was close on him. Really like him too. Jonah Ellis from Utah. Little bit kind of different sort of player when you watch him. His tape is so different compared to everybody else. And then I'll just leave it at that for now. And Adisa Isaac from Penn State, who's, once again, we have a lot of teammates on here. He's Chop Robinson's teammate at Penn State, another guy who wrecked Michigan's game plan a little bit in that game, stood out. So, Joe, who you got for your rankings?
All right, so top 2, I got the same. I rolled Jared Verse, Chop Robinson. I mentioned it already. I think Jared Verse is ready for the league. He looks the most polished to me. Chop Robinson seems like a very, very. You could go 1A, 1B if you really wanted to. I think here, Chop Robinson, great speed off the ball, had that shoulder dip that kind of, in a way, I would say for me, kind of like Von Miller in a sense. I think someone in one of his highlights mentioned it, and I was like, that kind of makes sense to me. And then, so 3 is so as I mentioned before, I wasn't really a fan of Laiatu Latu, and I'll get into Dallas right now too as well. He didn't really stand out to me. Similar to how you had him at 5, I don't know. And so I kind of ventured out, looked at the other people that you had on the honorable mention, see if I would like any of them ahead of these dudes. But I think I'm gonna have a little scratch out on number 5, throwing our guy Laiatu there. I think you persuaded me a little bit to get him in there. I wasn't too impressed with Jonah Ellis's tape like that. I didn't have many bad things to say about him, so I felt better putting him there. But at 4, I had Braylon Trice. I did like him a lot. He was quick off the ball, strong dude, and he had a nice swim and rip that was just like impressive to me. Where it's the kind of the physical hands as well, I guess, ties into that statement as well. So that's my top 5 right there. Kind of ventured out into the world on this one.
Love it. I enjoy when we differ because that's what draft season's all about, dude. Nobody has the same rankings. Nobody thinks the same things. The whole point. But man, what a start to draft season. I'm so excited. I think we could have 4, maybe 5 edge guys going round 1. I think that's what we're going to get.
Yeah, it's possible.
At least 4. I think we might get 5. Braswell right now is projected as like a sorry. He's projected as like an early second rounder into the late first round. I think, like I said,
someone when all jumps up or
he may jump Dallas Turner. That's just all. There's one other thing about Dallas Turner that I was like not a huge fan of. After the Alabama-Michigan game in the Rose Bowl, someone asked him a question, and he was kind of like,
I think they talked about that.
Hey, I'm out of here. Basically, I'm going to the draft. Hey, you want to ask my coach why I was dropping more in coverage instead of rushing the passer? That's on him. That was his game plan. I'm not, and he was clearly frustrated, which I get, but it was just kind of like, hey, I'm out. I'm getting out of here. And so is it a red flag? Probably not. It's not a red flag. It's just another thing that I was like, just mark it. This is another thing that goes in the draft profile. But Yeah, I feel good about the rankings, even though we're 2 months away. Like I said, it's really early, but I feel
Yeah.
pretty good about it.
Yeah, I will say based off that statement too, it's like it's tough too because it's young college kids. You know, you're just in the
Mm-hmm.
heat of the moment at that time. Like it
Yep,
doesn't compare to the NFL where some people got teams saying, "Yo, like just kind of base it off of this, figure it out, say it in like nice general way." So that's another thing with that. But I mean, either way, if your frustration showing, that's kind of tough on both hands.
All right. Well, let's tell the people what we got next week. We're coming back. We're gonna talk tight ends. I'm not gonna
Ooh,
tell you who we're gonna talk about. I can say Brock Powers will probably be part of the conversation, though. Um, maybe even Jatavion Sanders from Texas, and we'll see who else we got rolling. Also, keep an eye out. We're going to be trying to get more guests on the pod to talk about this draft with us in different position groups. So you don't just have to hear our two voices, you hear some friends too.
yeah, facts.
Like Joey always says, like, subscribe, comment, all the things.
Definitely
Follow it.
hit the
All our
buttons.
socials. Remember, we don't have Instagram apparently, only X and TikTok, but that's all you really need anyway. So
I was gonna say Insta's kind of just a mixture of both. We could, if you want to even toss in threads in there, but yeah, I mean, you know what it is. Ooh, looking ahead to this next week a little bit. Besides talking tight ends, our guy Ray Riley, who takes us out every day or every episode, I should say, he's dropping new music too. So keep your eye out for that over
let's
the next
go.
couple days. Until then, we'll give you one of his old tracks.
Take us out, Ray Ray.